Hi, I welcome you all in this unique initiative by YuktMind, wherein we are covering a daily newspaper that is the Hindu within just 10 minutes. So let's get started with today's newspaper. The first news is about how NGO through foreign funding can be misused to stall a country's development. This can be used as an example in GS Paper 2 and Ethics Paper. The CBI has registered a case against a lawyer and his organization, the Legal Initiative for Forest and Environment, that is in short LIFE, for allegedly violating the Foreign Contribution Regulation Acts, that is FCRA provisions. LIFE, along with US based NGO Earth Justice, has also been accused of attempting to stall coal projects in the country through litigation. So the second news is about Haki Piki, a nomadic tribe of Karnataka. They have migrated to Sudan in terms of better economic opportunities. So, marginalized back home, the bird catcher tribe of Karnataka had tasted success as herbal healers in Africa till the Sudan War happened. The story of Haki Piki is a contemporary tale of migration, development, and the human desire to thrive. So basically, Haki Piki tribe is not considered under particularly vulnerable tribe status in India, despite their backward status uh, in terms of lack of access to education and vocational training. The third news is about ISRO's polar satellite launch vehicle C-55 successfully launches two Singapore satellites, that is TeLEOS-2 and Lumelite-4, into the intended orbit. The PSLV C-55 is a dedicated commercial PSLV mission of New Space India Limited, that is NSIL, for the international satellite customer from Singapore. This is the 57th flight of PSLV and 16th mission using the PSLV core Alon configuration, that is called PSLV CA. The PSLV C-55 mission will carry out in orbit scientific experiments by using the spent PS4 stage as an orbital platform. This is the third time that PS4 will be used after satellite separations as a platform for experiments. There'll be non separable payloads mounted on MSA, that is multi satellite adapter. As a part of POEM 2, that is PSLV orbital experimental module, there are seven experimental non separable payloads. So, what is POEM? The PSLV orbital experimental module, that is POEM, is a platform that will help perform in orbit experiments using the final and otherwise discarded stage of ISRO's workhorse rocket, the PSLV. The PSLV is a four-staged rocket where the first three spent stages fall back into the ocean, and the final step, called PS4, after launching the satellite into orbit, ends up as space junk. The fourth news is about recently updated space policy of India. The the Indian space policy of 2023 creates four distinct but related entities that will facilitate greater private sector participation in activities that have usually been traditional domain of the ISRO. In space, that is the first organization, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, will be a single window clearance and authorization agency for space launches, establishing launch pads, buying and selling satellites, and disseminating high resolution data, among other things. It will also develop space industry standards, promote identified space activities, and work with academia to widen the space ecosystem and enable industry academia linkages. The second entity will be ISRO. ISRO will focus on research into outer space. This will mean developing new space technology and applications to maintain India's edge in the areas of space infrastructure, space transportation, space applications, capacity building, and human space flight. It will also share technologies, products, processes, and best practices with non governmental entities, and this will include private companies and government companies. The policy underlines that ISRO will transition out from the existing practice of being present in the manufacturing of operational space systems. Hereafter, mature systems shall be transferred to industries for commercial exploitation. The third entity, that is New Space India Limited, NISL, that has already executed a few commercial space launches and the replacement for ISRO's BL Legard Antariksh. It will be responsible for commercializing space technologies and platforms created through public expenditure as well as manufacture, lease, or procure space components, technologies, platforms, and other assets from private or public sector. The fourth entity will be Department of Space. It will provide overall policy guidelines and be the nodal department for implementing space technologies and, among other things, coordinate international cooperation and coordination in the area of global space governance and program in consultation with the Ministry of External Affairs. It will also create an appropriate mechanism to resolve dispute arising out of space activity. So, private sector participation has been highlighted as one of the main draws of the new policy. They will be limited to Indian companies, and the question of whether foreign direct investment via the automatic route will be permitted in space is yet unresolved and pending government approval. Experts are of the view that clear demarcation of roles among various entities meant sowing the seeds for a burgeoning private space industry sector in India. Now we move on to our fifth news. In January this year, the definition of broadband was updated to 2 Mbps, quadrupling the bandwidth necessary to qualify for the tag. In India, broadband is defined not just as fixed line connections, but also wireless connections that offer fast internet speeds. Now we move on to our sixth news. India has successfully conducted a maiden flight trial of sea-based endo-atmospheric BMD, that is ballistic missile defense interceptor missile of the coast of Odisha. The missile test was conducted by DRDO and the Indian Navy on April 21st. The purpose of trial was to engage and neutralize a hostile ballistic missile threat, thereby elevating India into the elite club of nations having naval ballistic missile defense capability. So the seventh news is about central government's intensification and crackdown with an aim to make India drug free by 2047. So, according to Narcotics Control Bureau, that is NCB, in the past 3 years, 35,592 acres of poppy cultivation and 82,691 acres of cannabis cultivation has been destroyed across the country. Aiming to make India drug free by 2047, the Ministry of Home Affairs, that is MHA, plans to link recovery and usage of narcotics and banned substances in a particular area to the annual appraisal report of a district superintendent of police. This will bring accountability and fixed responsibility. So, in a unique initiative, Manipur has launched alternate livelihood scheme for farmers growing poppy illegally and also provide cash incentives to destroy the illegal crops. The MHA has constituted a study group to analyze the use of drones in the destruction of illegal crops in remote areas. And the NCB also shares satellite images with the affected states. The Ministry of Home Affairs is encouraging the liberal application of Prevention of Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act 1988, which includes a provision to detain an individual for up to 2 years without a court's intervention. So this provision has not been used much by states. So MHA is insisting on using this provision to tackle the menace of drugs in India. Following the directives of MHA, all states have created dedicated anti-narcotics task forces. The first ever conference of state anti-narcotics task forces was held on April 19 and 20, 2023. On the National Narcotics Coordination Portal, that is NCORD, the source and destination of drugs are highlighted too, and information up to the district level is maintained. Another database called Nidan has the photographs, fingerprints, court orders, information and detail of all suspects and convicts arrested under the NDPS Act so far, which can be accessed by state and central law enforcement agencies. Now we move on to our 8 news. It's about Bengal's century-old chot boat technique. The word chot in Bengali means to run. The boat is basically called a runner. The V-shaped structure of the chot gave it the ability to navigate even high waves of sea, hence they were used by traders along the coast. Now, the final news of the day. According to a study, 7 worst years for polar ice sheets melting occurred in past decade, with 2019 being the worst year on record. Thank you for watching this video. You can visit us at www.yuktmind.com. You can also follow us on our Twitter handle, Instagram ID, and Telegram channel. And please remember, there's more where it came from. So I'll see you in the next video.